This side will start, this side will come in second. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, wherever you are, wanderer, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, wherever you are, wanderer, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come.
Lovely. We acknowledge that we gather today on the ancestral lands of the Abenaki people who were removed unjustly, their land seized by colonizers, and that we in this community understand that we are the beneficiaries of that removal. We honor them as we live, work, study, and worship here at CVUUS. Good morning. Very good. Welcome to CVUUS, Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. Welcome to those of you here on this first Sunday of the first month of the year 2026. My goodness. It's a beautiful, chilly, wintry day, as it should be. It's January. We live in Vermont by choice. We can already feel and discern the daylight of the day lengthening by a moment or so each day. We welcome also those who are joining us by Zoom. Who are we and why are we here? Here at CVUUS, we strive to be an inclusive and welcoming community that sustains a liberal religious tradition. We aspire to be visible and active on behalf of social justice and environmental responsibility. We nurture and empower each other at all ages on our spiritual journeys, and we reach out to the larger communities of which we are a part. I'm Karl Lindholm, a member of the worship team, and I'm assisting this morning our interim co-minister, Reverend Christina Sillari, and the leadership of the small group ministry at CVUUS, as we explore the Soul Matters theme for January of practicing resistance. It's a good time to silence your phone if you haven't already. I never mind being reminded. If you have a milestone or passage, a joy or concern that you'd like to share with the congregation, please do fill out a yellow card and drop it in the offering baskets. The yellow cards are right by the front door here. Also out in the lobby are pink cards if you'd like to be in touch with have the Caring Network be in touch with you. And also these blue sheets on the table where the name tags are. If you're visiting, and give us your name and an email address and we'll stay in touch with you. If you, let's all make sure to do join us for the coffee hour in the Ann Ross Fellowship Hall after the service.
My name is Alan Moore. I'm a member of and sometimes co-leader of one of the small groups that meets on Thursday afternoons via Zoom. It's the only one that meets via Zoom. At this point, I'd like to ask Doug Richards to come up and light the chalice. And after he's finished lighting, and we hope he doesn't have problems doing that, I would invite you to join me in saying the chalice lighting words, which are in your order of service or on the screen, I hope. Yes. In a world that would divide us, we light this flame as a beacon of love, the power that holds us together. We resist separation by practicing interdependence, honoring our place in the web of life. We resist injustice by seeking justice, dismantling the systems of power that oppress. We resist inequality through equity, ensuring all have the tools and resources to flourish. We resist greed with generosity, sharing our spirits and resources to flourish. We resist tolerance through pluralism, embracing our diverse identities with curiosity and respect. And we resist the status quo through transformation, courageously changing ourselves and our world. May this light guide our collective work of liberation.
Good morning. Thanks for coming today, this cold morning. So today the small group ministry leaders and I are co-leading this service. And instead of a reflection, we will be demonstrating the small group process, which will include your participation later in the service. We hope you enjoy this. Our opening words are by Michelle Collins, Bearers of Hope and Resistance. Welcome to this place, a place where hope can be nourished. In a world that profits from despair, our gathering is a declaration of faith. We declare that joy still rises, that kindness still matters, that hope is not dead. We come to remember we are not alone. May our time together restore us to wonder, strengthen our resolve, and return us to the world as bearers of hope that sustains the work of resistance. Blessed be. I invite you to stand in body or spirit to sing hymn number 119, Once to Every Soul and Nation.
Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Dinah Smith, and I am a co-facilitator with Marnie Wood of the Tuesday evening small group ministry. This is time for all ages. I am so glad to see you guys. So I want to talk about resistance, and before I do that, I want to show you something that came my way from some of the kids who were here many years ago. I found this in my pocket, my coat pocket. It says, "Keep your smile going." It made me smile and smile and smile, and I still smile. I keep it right where I can see it on my fridge. So, cruelty and injustice unfolds around us. Unthinkable things are happening, and I often feel anger, frustration, fear, and the combination of all those big feelings. So the question that comes up now for me is, how can I resist what is happening? What's my role? How can I best serve? So there are organizations that exist to help us with this. CVUUS has so many pathways. Middlebury Indivisible, Breadloaf Mountain Zen. There's just great strength in the actions of all these organizations, but I needed to reach down, really down to the basic level of how I can resist injustice and inequity minute to minute and day by day. So I asked my friends, I asked my family, and I will ask my small group Tuesday. Without hesitation or contradiction, people said the same thing. They said, create connections, build on our interdependence. So we can practice resistance in the moment and for the future. A writer whose name is Satya Doyle Bayok put the roles of resistance into archetypes. That means categories. And I'm borrowing a few of these from her. So the healer, the cook, the neighbor, the observer, the giver, the benefactor, the leader, the writer, the seed keeper. And there are many, many more roles, but they all blur to me. They all sort of wash together. So I've sort of consolidated them. And so when I think about being a kid and some of what happens in kids' lives, I think about being a leader. I don't know that I was much of one, but here's what I know we can do. When you know what is right, what the right thing to do is, do it. So for example, if someone tells a joke that's supposed to make your friend feel hurt, you can tell the joke teller that you don't think it's funny. That's not a funny joke. Remind your friend that you are their friend. So at any age, and when the opportunity comes along, we can be a leader, we can also be a healer. You don't have to be a doctor to serve people in need. There are many ways to contribute to the lives of others, ways that give life meaning and a sense of belonging. These are acts of kindness, and kindness heals. You could take your extra soup or your dessert to a neighbor, stay for a chat, ask if you can pick up groceries when you go along for the shopping. connections. Connections heal. When you buy your groceries, ask the cashier or the fellow at the who stocks the shelves, "How are you doing?" And mean it. Besides growing relationships, you can grow plants. You can throw some seeds down and grow the plants that support the butterflies and the insects and the birds. You can be a writer, you can share stories, you can write poetry, and you can tell the facts. Tell the facts. These are ways for us to stay oriented to reality, to understand the need for change, and to be inspired. You can read books. You can save books. You can fight book bans and protect access to books. You can be a giver. You can be a benefactor. You can give as generously as possible with your time, your resources, and your money. Be a keeper. Be a seed keeper. A seed keeper is someone who collects seeds for future planting. Or a seed keeper might act like seeds themselves and protect knowledge, customs. Find ways to recharge and re-energize your energy and resources. Have tea with friends, meditate, and read. These are ways we can resist as individuals, building community, and ways as individuals to build a greater good. Many more ways than that. Thank you.
I'm Marnie Wood, and as Dinah mentioned, we co-facilitate one of the small group ministry groups, and our group meets the first Tuesday of every month. It's a great way to start the month. So if you have any questions, interest, anything at all that you might wish to know about after the service, when you're going to be told a lot more about it and modeled, please see one of us and let us know your interest or your questions, whatever. I'm doing Pathways to Connection, so that's a huge one that I just mentioned, and I'm not going to read the entire back page of your order of service, but I will remind you, or anyone who happens to be new this morning, there are an entire list of ways in which you can be part of what we're doing here and nourish yourself. But I'm going to highlight the fact that you definitely are all invited to join us next Sunday when we will be celebrating, amazingly so, our 40th anniversary of the existence of Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society. And we will have the wonderful folks who gathered together to start this UU group with us. So please show up next week and help us celebrate. Also next Sunday, if you like music and to dance and move, which I understand researchers tell us is really a marvelous way to stay alive, come next Sunday and join us for a groove dance party from 1 to 2:30. And we are welcoming all people, all ages, all dance moves, and your wonderful spirits to join us. Also, it's Reverend Christina is beginning this month a focus on death and dying, and a very informative reality, which is pretty obvious that it's good for us to learn about. So if you're interested in being part of that particular group, please see Reverend Christina today, if at all possible. That will be beginning January 13th. And so read the back of your order of service when you can, but join us downstairs for fellowship after the service. And then we are going to also upstairs at about an approximate enough time for you to have some coffee and treats downstairs and greet one another. But we will be having a conversation upstairs about our stewardship focus this spring, which, because for those of you that might not be aware, we are having a search for a new minister. And the stewardship campaign is part of how we're going to learn more about what's happening, what's ahead, and how we're going to fund it, I guess, is probably a blatant reality. But pathways to connection, I'm sure you can find ways that will nourish you.
Now is the time in our service for the offering. This month we're sharing our plate with the Vermont Legal Immigration Fund, which supports the immediate legal and financial needs of our marginalized neighbors. Please be as generous as you can. Well, this is a little unusual. We only have one yellow card, and it's a sort of unusual yellow card too, but topical certainly. This is from the Unitarian Universalist Association. It's a statement. As the current administration continues to consolidate power, violate domestic and international law, and trample the human rights of people both in the U.S. and abroad, We pray for the safety of all who are in harm's way. The people of Venezuela have the right, as all people do, to safety and self-determination. We urge our elected leaders and the courts to exercise definitive moral leadership, to swiftly curtail these abuses of power and prevent this administration from causing further loss of life and violations of international law. Amen.
Hello. Sue Rasmussen. I'm a small group minister leader for a new group that just started in November, so we're just getting started, but hopefully we're very small. Hopefully we will be growing soon. But right now we're a group of 5 very deep thinkers. This is a poem by Lynn Unger called Breathe. Breathe, said the wind. How can I breathe at a time like this, when the air is full of the smoke of burning tires, burning lives? Just breathe, the wind insisted. Easy for you to say if the weight of the injustice is not wrapped around your throat, cutting off all air. I need you to breathe. I need you to breathe. Don't tell me to be calm when there are so many reasons to be angry, so much cause for despair. I didn't say to be calm, said the wind. I said to breathe. We're going to need a lot of air to make this hurricane together.
Morning. I'm Ann Webster. I'm currently part of the Tuesday evening small group. And I joined my first small group ministry back in the late 1990s in the old building we occupied on Cross Street. At the first gathering I attended, we developed a covenant regarding our expectations of each other during our time together, and to create a safe space by agreeing to keep confidential anything shared with the group. There was a format of lighting a chalice, having a short check-in to see what was currently on the minds and hearts of participants, and then shared readings and quotes to stimulate thoughts about the topic. After our conversation, we would end by expressing what went well for us during the session and what may not have gone so well. Then we extinguished the chalice. These first groups struggled to maintain momentum, which I personally connected with the fact that at the time we did not have Sunday services during the summers. And ironically to me, this could have been a great time for the groups to really flourish. After moving to our current sanctuary, small group ministry started again. I joined a group led by Mike Greenwood, and we met in the Fenn House. Since then, I have been in the same group. I say same group with those finger quotations, because over the years, people have left the group and new people have joined. I myself left the group for a period of time when I felt overwhelmed with my new responsibilities and too many commitments. As my life settled into a better rhythm, I realized that what I really needed was to rejoin my group. Thankfully, they took me back. Each change in participants changes the group dynamics, but my experience has been that it never has changed the feeling of welcome, the camaraderie, the respect for the many different ways of seeing the world, and the compassion that comes from knowing another person's story. I joined small group ministry for the purpose of delving into spiritual topics more deeply with a focused group of people. What has been more deeply meaningful to me is the stronger connections and friendships I have made with people in my congregation that I may otherwise never have had the opportunity to know as intimately. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. So typically, as you probably have gathered, the small group ministry experience happens once a month with the same group of people, although that group can change over time. And it meets for an hour and a half at least. And the sharing time, both the check-in and the question for the check-in is, how is your spirit? Which is a little different than how are you, right? And people, depending on the size of the group, can respond to that question for quite some time. So people get to know each other very deeply in just the check-in. And then there's a reading, and the reading quotes, questions that the small group ministry is about is the theme of the month. So this month it's about resistance, and it changes every month. Today, we're going to have a very short version of small group ministry. And I'm going to be leading, which is what I do in our leadership group every month. We all get together, and I lead us in a short version of small group, and then we have our business meeting. And at some point during this process, I'm going to invite all of you sitting here to be part of that discussion with each other. And those of you on Zoom, hello. Those joining us virtually, you will also be reflecting on the question and chatting with each other, hopefully. And I just want to say a hello before we start this process to the children in this space. Good morning, good morning. I'm so glad you're here. And you probably noticed that there's no religious exploration programming today because you're sitting here in the sanctuary. And I'm glad you're here and thank you for being here. All right. So first thing is to light the chalice. Do one of you want to light the chalice? Thank you, Alan. Okay, so let's take a moment to be quiet. You all can do that with us. And let's breathe. And I invite us to inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth at our own rhythm for a bit. And I also invite us to put our hand on our heart. When we consciously breathe and put our hand on our heart, we actually drop out of the mind noise. And then asking our heart, how is my spirit right now, today? How is your spirit? And when you're ready, you can release your hand and open your eyes. And we're going to just say a sentence here right now. Yes.
My spirit is tender, navigating uncertainty.
My spirit is grateful for many things.
My spirit is anxious.
My spirit is tap dancing.
My spirit is curious, ready to listen to what you have to say.
My spirit is joyful to be alive. So our reading for reflection this morning is called The Clearing by Martha Postlethwaite. Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is your life falls into your own cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worthy of rescue. Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is your life falls into your own cupped hands and you recognize and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worthy of rescue. So I'm going to read 2 questions, and I invite everyone here in the sanctuary and on Zoom to reflect on them. And they will also be on a slide on the screen, hopefully. How is the song of your life calling you to help save your corner of the world? How is the song of your life helping save your corner of the world? What role does community play in your work of resistance? What role does community play in your work of resistance? So we're going to answer one of those questions aloud with each other. Reflect on the question. Respond to the question. And at the end of our sharing, and this is something we do in our group, is we invite people to take a breath with us, because that lets us know that we're done. Each person has finished speaking, and it also gives a pause for the next person. Who wants to start?
I wanted to say that I love that phrase, the song of your life. And when I was in elementary school, I did well, but I always talked too much. It said that on my report card. But I would say the song of my life is connecting in many ways, and that is what nourishes me in my little corner. And I feel that it's just so important to be able to share and connect with others. Take a breath with me, please.
I spent almost 35 years commuting to a job that it took my whole day, and at home I went to sleep and then I got up and did the job again the next day. So I didn't have much of a community in Middlebury except for this church. This church was my community. And then I retired and decided that I needed to get to know Middlebury, the village, the people who live next door, the people who live in the woods, the people who live under the bridge. And so I got to be better acquainted with Bread Loaf Mountains and community and took some courses. Now I spend time at Gather in a few ways, and I feel like my goal is to build some bridges, not bridges necessarily, but relationships with people that I wouldn't know otherwise, and hear their stories. I've been able to do that, and I have been making a point of getting to know the people in my neighborhood. And knock on a door and say, come to a neighborhood party. We're having a party. You want to come? It's been pretty interesting. We've done that 3 times now, and I actually know who lives in that red house down the street. So it's small. It feels small to me, but it is my life, and it feels good. Will you take a breath with me?
So the first question is what interests me a little bit more. The song of my life and how it calls to me and helps me to discern how I can be of use in the world, how I can be helpful. For me, there are several ways I guess I could answer that. But the one that came to me first was that for me, what works is to read poetry, to recite it aloud, to contemplate it, to maybe discuss it with somebody else. It helps me to clarify. It helps me to provide context for how I should respond. It helps me in many ways to know better how to be in the world. Would you take a breath with me?
I find it hard to just answer one of those questions because they kind of interweave with each other. But first of all, I started thinking about community and how important community is in any act of resistance, especially what's going on right now, because it takes all of us, and we can't do this by ourselves. We number one, wouldn't be very effective. Number two, we would wipe ourselves out if we were doing it all. But in a community, you hold each other up. You can take breaks when you need it, come back in, and the motion keeps going. I mean, if you have to step back, it doesn't stop with you. If you're working by yourself, it stops. But how it interweaves with the first question is, you do need to take that break sometimes, and from what I would call the big stuff. And I'm thinking about the song of my life would be, I like to be creative. And I read something in The Guardian a while back, not too long ago, about, Dinah was talking about the different ways of being, the archetypes of resistance. And one of those is art. And I don't claim to be an artist, but I do have a little bit of talent somewhere, and I can use that. I enjoy doing it, but after a while it's like, how much can you do this for yourself? But this article in The Guardian was people would do their, mostly fiber arts that they were talking about. It could be anything. And either they would make things and give it away to people that need it, like sweaters and mittens and hats, or they would do their whatever their art craft was and have a sale and sell it, and then the money would go to somebody or some agency in need. And I thought, well, that's a way that I could use, my talents, and I'm kind of interested in seeing, exploring that and seeing where I can go with it. Would you take a breath with me?
I also chose to answer the first question, although like Sue, I think they're both related in many ways. And I chose to interpret Song of Your Life as a way to describe my trajectory in my life from the beginning to the end, well, to where we are now. Which isn't too far from the end, but anyway. I grew up in a fairly traditional conservative family in Massachusetts where issues of inequity and injustice were not talked about nor confronted nor thought about much as far as I know. And as a kid, I didn't really experience those situations because I lived in a solid middle-class community where those issues just weren't there, weren't talked about, or at least if they were there, they were hidden. It wasn't until I joined the Peace Corps after college that I was confronted firsthand with all sorts of issues of inequity and injustice. And as a Peace Corps volunteer, I was placed in charge of a national park in Costa Rica. And I could talk about that forever, but one experience I had, which I think is sort of a metaphor for confronting injustice, is I was in charge, and I had 7 park rangers, Costa Ricans, that I worked with, and we were in charge of managing and doing everything in this national park, basically. And one thing we did, we had a brand new visitor center, and which was going to be inaugurated in a couple of weeks, and there was this very ugly barbed wire fence, which was very adjacent, which was separating the visitor center from a private property, a pasture land. And it was going to be inaugurated, and we didn't want that fence to be there. And the property that was on the other side of the fence was in the process of being purchased by the government, but it had been over 2 years in this process. And as you know, bureaucracy in any government takes time. And it's very frustrating sometimes, which is why Donald Trump is president, actually. So we decided, I was 23, and these other guys I was working with were about my age. We were kind of impetuous. We were in an impetuous age. And one day we decided, this fence has got to go, you know? And it wasn't really serving any purpose at that point anyway. It just was there. So we tore the fence down. And of course, a few days later, we got the notice from on high that this fence had to go back. So we put it back. But 2 weeks later, that property was purchased, and the fence came down again. And I'd like to think that our little act of resistance facilitated that process somehow, and we got what we wanted. And the national park is a better place for it. 50 years later, here I am with Carol, and here we are in this congregation. And I would like to think that our ripe old age, that we are still confronting issues of injustice and inequity together with all of you in this congregation. That's what our values are all about, and I hope that we can continue to do that. Please take a breath with me.
Thank you all. Now it's your turn. So I invite you, and if you don't want to participate and you want to just be alone and reflect on these questions, you can sit and close your eyes and be by yourself, and that's perfectly wonderful. And if you'd like to verbally respond to the question or listen to somebody's response, I invite you to turn to a neighbor, 1 or 2, no more than that, and take turns answering the question. Questions. Should I repeat the questions? How is the song of your life calling you to help save your corner of the world? What role does community play in your work of resistance? So choose one.
Should be able to unmute now.
So can people hear me on Zoom?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I have a weird answer to that question because right now I feel like what I'm doing is being fallow, basically. I'm waiting. And I really like that poem that Christina read about having a clearing and cupping my hands because it made me feel better about how I am not wanting to be out in the world right now. Will you take a breath with me?
Anyone else?
Hi, it's Dee. A friend used my um, equipment for our Zoom, and her name was Joan Simon, and somehow or other her name is still on the screen. I don't know or how to out someday. Anyway, I have thought of this issue. What can I do? Many, many times, and I never quite know how. When we had Nobody Day, I made a sign and signs, and we protested along Route 7. But that's a one-time thing. Can I do? Sometimes I feel alone at that, and I feel frustrated. And I, what can I do? Would you take a breath?
Thanks, Dee. Anybody else?
I'll go. During the year, many of you know, I've been quite busy with Indivisible Middlebury, and getting toward the end of the year, I start to feel pretty tired, and then we had a Zoom meeting that almost nobody came to, and our numbers have dropped off in the live meetings, and much of the leadership group of Indivisible Middlebury was having other things going on, and there was very little, we couldn't get people together to meet. And I was really struck by how Did you? Okay.
Okay, I know you could keep chatting, some of you, right? Like for a long time about this. And you can continue these conversations after the service. I see some hugging. That's so sweet. So we typically end our sharing or our group time together. I think one of you mentioned this. I don't remember. Oh, I think it was Anne. you mentioned this, with likes, wishes, gratitudes, just so we can share appreciations and anything that maybe came up that didn't work for us. And that's helpful for the group to know what's going on.
I would just like to say I know you all. I've known you all for some time, but I feel like I know you better. And I really deeply appreciate your sharing. I wouldn't change anything about what we did, so.
I'm grateful that we've been able to share our experience with all of you.
It's always so important to me to have this time once a month where I know there will be a chance for us to interact, to learn more about one another. And I'm also cheered by how all of you jumped in and talked and shared.
I like listening to everybody's perspectives from the same questions. We got, how many? 6 different answers. So it's kind of cool to see how we're all different, moving in the same direction. And my hope, wish is that with this brief introduction to what a small group ministry is, that it has inspired some of you to want to take part in your own.
I guess I'm most grateful for the opportunity to listen to all of you, as Sue said, and to learn, to sort of grow my heart.
I have a wish, and my wish is that this experience has inspired a few of you to become small group ministry leaders. If you are willing and able, please stand and hold your neighbor's hand, and you can sit and hold your neighbor's hand as well. Our closing words are by my colleagues, Amy Bowden-Friedman and Keith Crone, and they're called "These Hands Connect Us to One Another." Become aware of the hands that you are holding, their warmth, texture, and weight. As an infant, these same hands reached out for the nourishment of milk. As a child, these hands shakily wrote a name on paper for the first time. These hands have wiped away tears, clenched in anger, waved hello and goodbye countless times, and embraced loved ones. And now these hands are the tangible link that connects us to one another. Look and see those around you who have experienced so much that is life. These hands have worked, are working, and will work to make this world a better place. Go in peace, go in love, work for justice, go forth and bless the world. Amen, and blessed be. Please remain standing to sing our closing hymn, number 121, We'll Build a Land. Please be seated. Doug. Just want to say that Doug is leading 2 groups, and Doug led all the small group ministry process for many years. And I want to thank you, Doug, for keeping small group ministry going at CVUUS. Okay, let's share the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, remembering always to keep love at the center. Please enjoy the postlude. That was amazing. Thank you. Please join us for refreshments downstairs, and then remember to come back up here for the congregational conversation.